Long before the cooperative, the villages of Ziam, Ziba, and Vanda suffered under the heavy hand of poverty. The fields were barren, crops failed, one year after another, and many children went to bed hungry. Families struggled to survive. Markets were quiet, and trade had dwindled to mere whispers. Disease and hardship were constant companions. The people grew weary and despondent, wondering if life would ever improve. On a certain morning, the king of Ziam woke up with worry. It was about 4 o'clock, and the village lay silent except for the distant crow of cocks. The king had barely slept, for his heart was heavy with the condition of the land. He summoned the religious heads of the village, seeking answers, but even their prayers seemed not to reach the skies. Then, on Vumanzi market day, a young man appeared at the palace gates. Nobody knew him. "I need to see the king," he said, insisting it was urgent, though he offered no explanation. The guards resisted, unwilling to let a stranger pass. Voices rose, and finally, the king himself stepped out. With calm authority, he commanded the guards to allow the man inside. What happened in the throne room that day remained a mystery. The young man disappeared into the king's presence and was never seen leaving. Rumors spread, some said he was a messenger from the gods, others whispered that he vanished into thin air. The king never spoke of him to anyone, until the cooperative began, and the villagers saw that indeed, the visit had been divine. It was Nzudo market day, the biggest and most popular market day in the region. As the sun set, and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, the villagers gathered at the village square. The square was wide and open, surrounded by thatched market stalls, palm trees, swaying gently in the evening breeze, and benches carved from logs. Children ran about, women carried baskets of produce, and men leaned on wooden posts, waiting in anticipation. The king stepped forward, his robe flowing, staff in hand, and addressed the crowd. His voice echoed through the square. "My people," he said, "our lands have suffered long. Our children go hungry, and our elders grow weary. But today, we begin a new path. We shall form a cooperative, where each family may save together. With discipline, with unity, we will send our youths to learn skills and bring prosperity back to our villages. This is not mine alone, nor is it yours alone, it is the work of the heavens, guiding us to a better future. He who prospers shall bring joy to all. He who strays shall find the consequences of disunity. Let this initiative be our light in the darkness." Thus was born the cooperative. The king appointed a young man named Uzi to manage it. Families saved what little they could, and within 3 years, 100 youth were sent to the cities, some to study, others to learn trades, bringing back knowledge and skills to uplift their homes. Encouraged by this success and with the permission of the king, Uzi opened a branch in the neighboring village of Ziba. Here, a young woman named Tuli was appointed to run operations, while another remarkable young woman, Dame, joined as marketing head. Together, they expanded the cooperative across villages, employing more than 20 staff and turning it into a model of prosperity. Tuli and Dame became inseparable, almost like sisters from another mother. They ate together, traveled together, and even after marriage, their friendship endured. Their husbands, admiring their wives' ambition, supported every plan and endeavor. After years of running the cooperative and bringing prosperity to the villages, Tuli and Dame began to dream of a business they could call their own, a venture that would carry their names and their vision. They wanted freedom, independence, and the satisfaction of building something entirely by themselves. To pursue this dream, both women resigned from their positions at the village cooperative. They left the comfort and familiarity of Ziam and Ziba and moved to the city, where their new business would be located. It was a bold step, leaving the cooperative they had nurtured for years, but ambition pulled them forward. In the city, the two women threw themselves into their new venture. The office was lavish, adorned with polished wood desks, walls lined with certificates, and large windows overlooking bustling streets. Within months, their business began to grow. They lived richly, purchasing cars, moving into mansions, and hosting parties that drew the attention of their peers and former villagers alike. It seemed nothing could stop them. Their friendship remained strong, and for a while, life was perfect. But ambition, as the elders say, often tests even the strongest bonds. Soon, disagreements began to appear. Tuli and Dame had different ideas about how to expand the business. Tuli wanted to take a cautious approach, while Dame suggested bold, rapid growth. As the business grew, the shadows lurking behind ambition also grew. The investors' insistence on separation of roles and accounts had sown seeds of doubt, and misunderstandings festered like an unseen storm. Soon enough, at the request of investors, hierarchy was introduced. Tuli assumed the position of the CEO, while Dame, as the next in command, became the COO. This arrangement also meant that their remunerations and profits were paid at a 60-40 ratio. At first, this felt like a balanced decision for the good of the company, but as time went by, and more decisions were made, Dame began feeling increasingly sidelined and suspicious. She was convinced that Tuli's family was influencing every choice, that profits and power were being unfairly skewed. One day, after a heated argument over the division of profits, words were exchanged that could not be taken back. "You cannot always decide for both of us," Dame shouted, her voice trembling with frustration. "And you think I would cheat you? After all we've built together?" Tuli's eyes blazed with hurt. The argument spiraled over days, then weeks. Each woman consulted her own advisors, each trust shattered a little more. Because the business was held in a trust, they could not simply split ownership. Uzi, their boss from the village cooperative, who still watched over them like a guardian from afar, sensed danger. He called them both. "Remember, what brought you together is trust, not money. Do not let gold blind your eyes to friendship." They thanked him, promised to resolve their differences, and they went home. Yet, even Uzi's warnings could not heal the rift. The friendship that had once been unshakable now felt fragile as dry leaves in the wind. Tuli withdrew into herself, determined to protect the company, but at home, her family began to panic. "Something is wrong," Tuli's mother whispered one night. "Your heart is restless, your dreams troubled. You cannot continue like this alone." Before long, the whispers turned to action. Tuli's family consulted witch doctors, seeking to uncover unseen forces that might be causing the misfortune. Herbs were prepared, charms consulted, and midnight prayers whispered. All of Ziba village talked of the strange events that had befallen the once golden business duo. And yet, in the darkness of mistrust and magic, the story was far from over. Fate, as the elders say, has a way of teaching lessons that no gold or power can match. It was in this crucible of betrayal, fear, and family intervention that both women would learn the most important lesson of all: true trust cannot be bought, and friendship is more valuable than even the greatest wealth. The rift deepened, and ultimately, Dame decided to leave. Because the company was held in trust, they could not divide it. Instead, Dame was paid off, a sum that seemed generous, but was nothing in comparison to what the company was worth. She left with a heavy heart, sorrow mixing with determination. At first, Dame tried to reinvest her money into a similar business, but luck did not favor her. The venture failed. Life, it seemed, had turned cruel. Her husband, once a partner in ambition, left her because she could no longer sustain the lavish lifestyle they had enjoyed. He had spent recklessly, lavishing money on frivolities, trusting that his wife's wealth would always cover it. Now, without the business to back them, he abandoned Dame, leaving her alone to care for their children. Dame faced life in the city with a courage that surprised even herself. She endured gossip, lies, and mockery. Tuli, seeing Dame's misfortune, spread false stories about the separation, demeaning Dame and exaggerating faults. Friends and acquaintances whispered in the corridors of offices and streets, questioning Dame's competence and morality. For days, months, and even years, Dame cried herself to sleep. She felt the sting of betrayal, loss, and solitude. She lived modestly, scrimping to ensure her children were fed and clothed, while watching Tuli's former company continue to thrive. Every success of Tuli's was a sharp reminder of what had been lost. Yet, as the elders say, even in the darkest nights, hope can rise. Dame, resilient and resourceful, sought out a foreign investor, an entrepreneur from distant lands who recognized her vision and tenacity. With their backing, she launched a new business, different from her old one, leveraging her deep knowledge of the land, people, and trade networks. Within months, her enterprise grew rapidly. Customers and investors from far away took notice. What had once been hardship and despair transformed into opportunity and prosperity. Dame's courage, intelligence, and resilience allowed her to rise faster than anyone had expected. Word of Dame's success traveled back to Tuli. The pride that had once blinded Tuli began to yield to humility. Though her own company remained strong locally, she realized that Dame's ingenuity, boldness, and foreign support had placed her on a path even she could not reach. The mockery she had spread now weighed heavily on her conscience. Years later, at a regional festival, the two women met again. The crowd hushed as they saw one another. Time had changed them. Dame approached Tuli with calm dignity. "Tuli," she said softly, "we were foolish once. Let us not make that mistake again." Tuli lowered her head, humbled. "Perhaps, we can respect one another," she replied. "Even if our friendship is not what it once was." It was not a full restoration of their bond. Time, ambition, betrayal, and pride had left scars. But it was enough to show that even the deepest wounds could teach humility, respect, and patience. Dame's business flourished internationally, providing prosperity for her family and employees. Tuli's business thrived locally, respected and admired, but now tempered with humility and understanding of ambition's cost. And so, the story of Tuli and Dame became a tale told for generations, a tale of friendship tested by ambition, betrayal, and pride, yet tempered by resilience, courage, and the power to forgive.